Created in 1999 out of the eastern portion of the Northwest Territories, Nunavut encompasses the traditional lands of the Inuit, the indigenous peoples of Arctic Canada, known as Eskimo in the United States. Its name means our land in Inuktitut, the language of the Inuit. The region, which is now mainland Nunavut, was first populated approximately 4,500 years ago by the pre-Dorset and diverse Paleo-Eskimo culture that migrated eastward from the Bering Strait region.
Nunavut covers 1,936,113 square kilometers of our land and 157,077 square kilometers of water in northern Canada, representing 21% of the country's total area. The territory includes mainland Canada, the majority of the Arctic archipelago, and all of the islands in Hudson's Bay, Ungava Bay, and James Bay, including Akimiski Island and Charlton Island.
Nunavut comprises two distinct physiographic regions, the Canadian Shield including the mainland and the islands around Hudson Bay, and the Arctic archipelago in the north. The flat, often poorly drained lowlands of the Canadian Shield are underlaid with ancient rocks more than 1 billion years old. Thousands of lakes dot the heavy glaciated surface. The Arctic archipelago consists of lowlands in the south that rises to the Innuation Mountains in the north and along the eastern side of Baffin Island.
Miss Smith, you lived in Nunavut, correct?
I did for 3 years.
And what was life like?
Life was very different than here. We think it's exceptionally cold here in the winter. It was unbearable there. From November to February, it was 40 below every single day, and then it just depended what the wind chill was. Like, I think my coldest day there was minus 78. You actually, when you walked out of the house, you had to stop and try to take a breath before you started walking, so that your lungs could adjust to how cold it was some days. A lot of Inuit people were there, so that was the majority of the school was Inuk kids. There was, in any given year, about 75 kids come into kindergarten, and we were only graduating about 10 kids out of grade 12. So that was really hard. They were new to living in communities and going to school because they'd been moved off the land into towns. I went there because they were going to pay more money than they were going to pay me to work in Saskatchewan, and I had major student loans, so I went up there. But by the time I was done, I was spending more than I was making trying to fly out, because it was about $1,200 at that time, and that is 25 years ago, to fly from Rankin Inlet to Winnipeg. So it was very expensive to fly out and do anything. So yeah, it was hard when I was young.
Now, how many kids were in your school?
The town had 3 schools. So my school was grade 7 to 9. So I believe there was, about 60 to 70 kids a grade. Okay. So under 300.
Nunavut is a territory that consists of 3 regions: the Qikiqtaaluk region, the Kivalliq region, and the Kitimiot region. The Qikiqtaaluk region is the easternmost administrative region in Nunavut. This is the traditional Inuktitut name for Baffin Island. There are 13 communities in this region: Iqaluit, Arctic Bay, Cape Dorset, Clyde River, Grise Fjord, Hall Beach, Igluik, Kimmerit, Pagnerton, Pond Inlet, Quickterjak, and Seniklak.
The Kitikmeot region is the most western region of the territory and consists of the southern and eastern parts of Victoria Island, which is adjacent part of the mainland. There are 5 communities in the Kitikmeot region: Cambridge Bay, Goja Haven, Kugaruk, Kuluktuk, and Taloyak. The Kivalliq region consists of the portions of the mainland to the west of Hudson Bay. Together with the Southampton Islands and Coast Islands, there are 7 communities in the Kivalliq region: Erviat, Baker Lake, Chesterfield Inlet, Coral Harbor, Najat, Rankin Inlet, and Whale Cove. It is here that you will find the great expanse of the Arctic tundra, rolling hills that stretch from horizon to horizon. This is also home to some of Nunavut's largest lakes and rivers.
What were the people like?
Definitely made some friends there. Most of the friends that I had would have been also like have moved there. Like there was not a lot of integration between the white community and the Inuit community, so that was a bit different and hard.
The earliest written historical account of the area is dated to 1576, an account by English explorer Martin Frobisher. While leading an expedition to find the Northwest Passage, Frobisher thought he had discovered gold ore around the body of water known as Frobisher Bay on the coast of Baffin Island. The ore turned out to be worthless, but Frobisher made the first recorded European contact with the Inuit. Other explorers in search of the elusive Northwest Passage followed in the 17th century, including Henry Hudson, William Baffin, and Robert Bylot.
So what did you think of the landscape of Nunavut?
Well, the landscape is very different than anywhere else in Canada, so I think that's definitely why Miss Varnachuk should take the amazing race there. She also hasn't been there, so it's probably the other reason she should go. It's very flat. It's very there's no trees. It's all sort of permafrost, snow for the majority of the year, but the Hudson Bay, like where I was in Rankin Inlet, is on the Hudson Bay, so the water is absolutely beautiful. So there's tons of things that you could do for the amazing race that would incorporate the landscape and the water in Hudson Bay.
Jordan Tootoo is a former professional NHL hockey player. He played 13 years in the NHL with various different teams. Played with the Nashville Predators, Detroit Red Wings, New Jersey Devils, and Chicago Blackhawks. He played 723 games, banking 161 points. Jordan Tootoo retired in 2018 to focus on giving back to the Indigenous communities and to enhance the lives of children who are suffering. Nunavut is surrounded by national parks such as Ayaktutuk National Park, Sermilik National Park, Ikalajarup-Nanunga Territories National Park, and Out'n'Rapak National Park. Baffin Island, the largest island in Canada and the 5th largest island in the world, the Inuktitut name for the island is Oigtitalik, which means very big island.
It would take an astonishing 19 hours and 25 minutes just to get to Kugluktuk, and that is by plane only.
Naujut Repulse Bay. Naujut means nesting place for seagulls in the local Inuktitut language. This hamlet sits near a cliff area where seagulls are born each year in June. It's also located directly on the Arctic Circle, a fact marked by impressive stone cairn found in the little town. Only about 1,050 people live in Najat, meaning they're greatly outnumbered by the birds and other local wildlife. Rolling hills, beautiful inlets, and Arctic tundra from a landscape that tends to experience some pretty cold weather. But that shouldn't stop you from visiting in the warmer months for great fishing, ATV riding, hiking, kayaking, and of course, bird watching.
The Inuktitut word Inuit means human beings or the people. This name refers to the indigenous people of Nunavut as well as those living in northern Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. Their essential skills for survival have always been hunting, fishing, and trapping.